Hello, my name is Caitlin Tran, and today I will be sharing with you how reducing grocery waste will be a beneficial step towards decreasing climate change. The government hasn't done anything for us, and there needs to be change now. So then the question is, how can we ourselves work towards trying to achieve change? According to the United States Environmental Protection Agency, in 2018, food waste was the largest contributor to landfills at 24, perhaps even 25% following all the waste created due to COVID-19. And plastics coming in second, allotting 19% to the total municipal solid waste landfill. The plan is to reduce personal waste, which would in turn reduce landfill waste. And by reducing landfill waste, we can slowly gain back the years we have lost due to the worsening effects of climate change and allow us to regenerate the earth. Let's first discuss our runner-up contributor to landfills, plastic. Oil-based plastics are resilient against biodegradation, making the use of the high-risk material a contributing factor for environmental consequences. It can take 500 to 1,000 years for plastic to decompose, making plastic debris an ever-growing contaminant of our Earth, as it now makes up half the total amount of marine and beach litter. If you look at these images, it is evident that the perils of plastic are not to be taken lightly anymore. If plastic were a human and could be charged for all the deaths it has directly caused, it would receive the death penalty, for it has killed hundreds of thousands of marine animals, including turtles, whales, an array of fish, and even birds due to ingestion, or if it got caught in nets or plastic. And this can serve as a great threat to the food chain and poses a threat to humans and human health, especially people of color and those who live in lower income populations, since waste incineration facilities and refineries are disproportionately built by their communities. Single-use plastic is processed in three ways: incineration, recycling, or relocation to landfill waste or litter. Incineration, refineries, and landfills all work to manifest massive environmental injustices all around the world. According to the Yale Climate Connections report, waste incineration in 2015, the United States emitted 5.9 million metric tons of carbon dioxide. Can you imagine the detrimental health concerns that living nearby any of these facilities could cause? Plastic is produced through fracking, which is the extraction of fossil fuels deep beneath the ground. Fossil fuels contain ethane, which is a key ingredient for plastic. Fracking is also the root of environmental issues, including earthquakes and climate, and has been linked to contaminating the air and water, which results in a range of irregular health symptoms and rare cancers. The data I have presented offers a quantitative perspective to how much plastic is actually wasted. Plastic makes up 18.5% of all MSW, and according to the EPA in 2018, landfills received 27 million metric tons, 27 million tons of plastic. As we can see in the data provided by the EPA on the top left corner, over 75% of all plastics are sent to accumulate in landfills, while less than 9% of plastics are recycled, which is extremely damaging since they take up to 1,000 years to decompose. Poor waste management of plastic has led to the endangerment of the ecological order between humans and our relationship to nature. Plastic takes 1,000 years to decompose, but will only take less than a decade to decompose the earth and all things living on it. When you think about food, do you ever consider what happens when you overorder or overbuy food due to gluttony? There's a reason why gluttony is a deadly sin, because the waste that it creates is deadly. Food waste is the single greatest contributor to landfills at a whopping 25%. According to the World Wildlife Organization, when food waste rots, it produces a greenhouse gas more potent than carbon dioxide, methane. 11% of all greenhouse gas emissions stem from a toxic food system that could easily be reduced if food waste was reduced. In the United States alone, the production of gas is equivalent to 37 million cars worth of greenhouse gases. The consequences of overindulgence and ignorance results in 40% of food in the average American household to be wasted. According to the Food and Drug Administration, as much as 20 pounds of food per person per month is gone to waste. That is an equivalent of $165 billion in food a year. This is an even greater challenge that burdens the communities that struggle with food security the most. With the amount of food being wasted, it could feed all the people who face difficulties putting food on the table. 1/8 of Americans are unable to feed themselves, meaning there are 690 million people who do not have food security, 1/5 of that population being children. Many consumers face confusion about the values of the date labels on virtually all packaged foods, which according to the FDA accounts for an estimated 20% of consumer food waste. Federal law does not regulate date labels, leaving the manufacturers to apply these labels at their own discretion. To be frank, after learning about this, I began smelling, tasting, and testing my foods before disposing of it, even after past the due date, because a majority of the foods we throw out are seemingly still okay. But due to the lack of discretion, we put our trust into these labels that are inaccurate and, in my opinion, quite meaningless now. Within the food industry, waste is accumulated in every step of the process. On the farm, energy, labor, and water is wasted. During processing and distribution, food is thrown out due to them looking irregular for their less than perfect form. On the consumer level, customers overbuy and improperly store their products, leading them to go bad and ultimately resulting in waste. What can we, as regular, everyday people, do to make a difference? Some may argue that the government and these multi-million transnational corporations should be responsible for the change, but so far I have not seen the drastic change that our environment so desperately needs. So we must take the action into our own hands the best that we can. I do not expect this transition to be attainable for everybody to make all at once, but there are small adjustments that could be integrated one habit at a time. The first suggestion I would like to make is to bring your own reusable bags every time you make a trip to the market. A small or medium bag to store your produce, and a few big bags just to make less trips into the house. This would reduce plastic bag waste, such as grocery bags and produce bags, which are both single-use plastics. 1 or 2 decent-sized reusable bags could save landfills from 22,000 plastic bags for an average person's lifetime. Some markets also offer self-serve sections for pantry items such as flour or oats, which would allow you to bring your own jars or containers to avoid all pantry packaging waste. To completely diminish food waste, make your own plant-based foods and compost any food scraps, including the tips of strawberries, carrot shavings, and similar pieces. Next is learn to be mindful of your product packaging. It may be more of a psychological business trick to reach for the plastic jar of nut butter that is 50 cents less than a glass jar, but when you become conscious about how much that extra 50 cents means, it can mean saving the environment from having to decompose another item that would take thousands of years to. Compared to plastic that is recycled at less than 9% of the time, glass is recycled nearly 4 times more than plastic is. And most of all, aluminum packaging has a recycling rate of nearly 65% due to its material durability to not lose any quality or functioning after being recycled. Next time you're about to reach for a plastic packaged product, consider the other options that may be better quality, may preserve food more effectively, and can help relinquish landfills of the ever-growing plastic waste problem. Another way to reduce waste is to shop locally. This could be at a weekly's farmers markets, niche markets, and delis for meat. This way you could spend less on farm-to-table produce that is not packaged in plastic nor injected with hormones or pesticides. Supply and demand are important for large corporations. If there is less demand for their inhumane produce, then they will be forced to supply less. Local suppliers also store their produce in eco-friendly, recyclable, or compostable materials. And when you are done choosing your produce, refrain from being superficial. And when you are choosing your produce, I apologize, refrain from being superficial. We wouldn't want to be judged for the way we look, so why should we judge our foods? Aesthetics do not equal good quality, but avoiding imperfect foods does equal waste and a missed opportunity to be open-minded. I do want to mention some ways that markets could also improve their inventory. For example, I visited my local Trader Joe's and was informed that their produce bags are compostable. This is a transition that could easily be made by markets worldwide. Rather than having to wait 1,000 years for a flimsy plastic bag to decompose, it would only take several months for a plant-based bag to compost. Instead of bagging meat in single-use air-trapping plastic bags, butcher paper and freezer paper would be much more efficient in properly storing and packaging meats. As I mentioned above, mindfulness of packaging is extremely important, even for vendors. As I said, supply and demand. Reach for the glass, aluminum, paper, or cardboard packaging. It may cost a few cents or a dollar or two more, but it's so worth it for the quality and usability. Excuse me. Markets could also offer a digital receipt instead of a paper receipt. I've seen this done in various small shops before, and it is so much more useful since I'm always on my phone, but paper receipts paper receipts are just getting tossed away. This could reduce cost and paper waste, which would be allocated towards a win-win profit for both the business perspective and the environmental perspective. So how feasible is this transition? It is actually a lot more feasible than you would think. I calculated the price per bag from a roll of produce bags, one being plant-based and the other made from plastic. As we can see here, the calculations show that the compostable bag is roughly half the price per bag and decomposes in 1/2000th of the time it would take for plastic to decompose. Next, let's delve into poultry packaging. Plastic bags to contain meat has always been an unappealing concept to me. Plastic packaging traps air and therefore clings to bacteria within the packaging. Plastic is also only able to store meat for a few months in the freezer and typically only a few days in the refrigerator, whereas butcher paper could be used for short-term travel from store to home. Then the consumer may either transfer or wrap another layer of freezer paper, which can preserve the flavor, freshness, and color of meat for up to 12 months. If you buy natural and unlined paper, it is even compostable or recyclable, considering that there are no food scraps. Lastly, there are canned products that are less expensive and have a longer shelf life than plastic products, such as what I have here, which is fresh vegetables. I know it is not easy for everybody to buy vegetables from the farmer's market due to time, or can buy fresh vegetables due to low income, but that's why I wanted to show this right over here. It is shown that the plastic bag of frozen vegetables costs 18.4 cents per ounce and stores for 8 to 12 months. The canned vegetables, however, cost 8 cents per ounce, contain more, and store for 2 to 5 years. This shows that even when you think getting plastic packaged foods are more convenient, there actually are alternatives that are cheaper and can be recycled or reused in a plethora of ways. In conclusion, there are a million and one little habits and functions we could change to make our everyday lives that much more sustainable and giving to the earth. I'm just going to provide a summary here for you about the things that I discussed. And if you could do just one thing, like keep reusable bags in your bag, like a backpack or car at all times, or scoping out a local farmer's market, you are one step closer to healing the world. What is important is not for one person to be 100% zero waste, but for 100% of the people to do the best they can to be zero waste, one small step at a time. And don't forget to love your home. Thank you. And here is my works cited as well.